You're listening to a Broken Reel Media production. Welcome back to the Something's Wrong Here podcast. I'm Randy, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Kinsey.
And I'm Brian.
And we have a guest tonight. Before I get to that, though, when we started this out, we were going over some ideas and some topics, and I threw out the idea, and I think this was even before Brian was involved. I threw out the idea, let's talk about participation trophies.
Old school shit.
And Kinsey's reaction was, hold the fuck up. No offense, but you can go fuck yourself. That was his exact words.
Sounds about right.
I said, okay, well, none taken, because I'm sure whatever you're going to say is probably offensive after that. So,
again, sounds about right.
He brought up the MR340.
Yeah.
And he said, I have a participation trophy in that, and I completed it, and that means something to me. It's more than just a participation. It means that I completed it. And within that 5-minute conversation, he actually changed my mind about participation trophies and the possible detrimental effects that they have and how you should learn to win and lose. But then after hearing it, so with that being said, we have the director of the MR340 with us, Scott. How about you tell us about yourself, tell us about the MR340 and what we got going on?
Okay, well, I have to start by saying I'm no longer the race director.
My bad. I'm sorry.
I was the founder and the race director for probably the first 16 years of the race, and now it's in the hands of Missouri River Relief, a nonprofit based in Columbia that does all kinds of cool stuff on the Missouri River. And I work for them, not in the capacity of race director, but I mean, various titles. I think we've called me safety coordinator or something like that, but I don't think there's a formal title. But yeah, I've been around the 340 since 2006, and we just completed our 19th annual.
Nice.
Would you describe yourself as knowledgeable about the 340?
Yeah, very knowledgeable.
Have you done it before?
Only, I mean, I've been out there every year in a safety boat, but you can't run a race and participate in it at the same time. Not of that scope.
So when you were putting it together as the founder, you paddled it. I mean, how did you found it?
Okay, so
first of all, why is it called the MR340?
MR stands for Missouri River. 340 is the mileage that we inflict upon the participants.
This is an incredibly creative way to name things.
The distance that we inflict.
I mean, and it's a race in boats that are non-motorized.
Yeah, human-powered paddlecraft or pedal. Just about anything you can imagine has tried it, and starts in Kansas City, ends in St. Charles, all on the Missouri River.
And it's labeled as the longest non-stop race in the world? Or is that...
Yes.
Does that still stand true?
It still works. There are longer races, but they have mandatory layovers of 10 hours, 12 hours. You know, can't be on the river at night, those kind of things. Ours is just, we send them off at call point in the morning on a Tuesday, and they have to make it to the finish line by Friday night. And they go night and day all the way.
You make it sound like a kid's first time to the airport without their parents. Like, we send them at call point on Tuesday, and we call Grandma on Friday.
Leave them at the terminal, hope they get to the end.
Yeah, we actually call it the meat grinder. Like, we put them in the meat grinder at call point, and some of them, not all of them, which speaks to your participation trophy point, about 66, about 2/3 actually make it to the other end of the meat grinder. Yeah.
So going back to the founding question, I know you had to cover the basis on what the MR340
all that fun
is.
stuff.
Good call, host. Found it. Talk about how you found it.
So it starts way back in 1989, actually, and I'm probably older than all of you guys. But in 1989, I was 20 years old.
Not the old guy.
And me and some friends from college decided to build a raft because we wanted to go down the Missouri River. So we built this raft and put it in Kansas City and lived on it for a week or 7 or 8 days. And it was just a life-changing, the coolest experience. I mean, it was an 11 by 16 raft, pretty much like if you can picture a swim dock.
Yeah.
And we stole some canned goods out of all of our, home kitchens, and had a little lean-to on the raft, and we just took off not really knowing a whole lot. This was back in 89,
What'd you use as the
assuming
flotation
some
device?
Of you were born in 89.
I was
4.
I was
-1.
I was 12.
So what was your flotation device underneath your raft?
My grandfather built docks at the Lake of the Ozarks, so we had access to big styrofoam.
Oh, like the actual big floating
4x16, styrofoam logs, and so we got a couple of those and a bunch of old plywood and 2x4s, and it was very well built. And but yeah, we just started floating down the river. 4 guys, 1 guy on each corner. Just the big challenge was like when you'd see a bridge, you had to like set up for the bridge 3 or 4 miles ahead because this was not a very maneuverable craft. But anyway, like I was just amazed that we were the only ones out there for a week. I never saw any other recreation, barges and so on, but sandbars and islands. And I mean, I just thought, how are we the only ones out here doing anything like this? It was just the coolest. So every year after that, I would buy like a junk pontoon boat or something, and I would just go back out on the river, go down the Mississippi, just start in Kansas City and go somewhere. And so, shortly after that, I started thinking, well, what can I organize that can be an event that brings people to this resource that is in our backyards in Kansas City, but that no one uses. And in fact, you're discouraged from using it. Everybody tells you, oh, the undercurrent will pull you straight down, or the 400-pound catfish will eat, whatever. That's where the cut in half murder victims are dumped, is the Missouri River. That's all it was known for. So I started conceptualizing this race, and I had I was a school teacher at the time. So I had access to a lot of free legal pads, and I would just sketch out what this race could look like, what would the rules be, and so on. But I just never had the guts to pull the trigger and actually start it until 2006. I was just like, I'm sick of thinking about this. I'm just going to put up a website, and because the internet got invented between 89 and 06, for those of you who are young, but
sometime in there.
I put up a website. And I thought, I will race this, and hopefully I'll get 3 or 4 crazy people to race it with me. It'll be a proof of concept year. Well, somehow word got out, and we ended up with 15 people signed up. And then I realized I need insurance, I need permits, and had to get Coast Guard permits and Missouri Water Patrol permits, and
all that fun stuff.
All that stuff. And then I realized, like, I can't race this. I have to be in a motorboat, like servicing the potential needs of these people. So that's how it started. And that first race, 15 people, Kansas City Star was out, and they took a picture of the start, and USA Today picked up that photo from the Kansas City Star.
Nice.
And it was on the front of USA Today the next morning, and it linked to our website, and my phone just started blowing up.
So you're still out on the river and all this is happening.
And the second morning of the race,
the viral moment happens.
My flip phone is just constantly ringing, and it's radio stations in St. Louis, it's radio stations in Jeff City, it's radio stations in California. It's all these people want to talk about this, and it's also people like you guys calling saying, when are the dates for next year? How do I sign up for next year?
Well, only some of us are willing to sign up. I've still got some people in the room that are a little doubtful. I'm trying to tell them it's a 3-day float trip. No, I'm kidding. It's not a 3-day float trip.
I mean, it's 3 days and you are floating.
I read a lot of those travelogues from people that have done it and completed it, and I hate to tell you, like, there is a lovely air of romanticism to it, but it usually never comes until the very end of the narrative.
Right.
The middle is the meat grinder.
Was there a lot of fucks and shits right in the middle?
It's not even really that. I mean, it's like you can read it's interesting to me is like, because I followed the Facebook group for several years, because I love to hear everybody post their experience, and I mean everybody from old people, older, like in their 60s and 70s that do it, all the way down to young kids that do it with their dads. And then there's big groups of guys like on the pedal boats, and there's stand-up paddleboard guys. It's like everybody has a different experience, but to me there's always some elements of the experience that they all abstract out and they all tend to share, as far as the benefits, the fear, the feeling of failure when you have to DNF. It's a very, very existential human experience to me.
Type 2 fun.
It certainly is type 2 fun.
I have no. interest in it whatsoever. And Kinsey sent me this pictures. He volunteered this year. Sent me some pictures of this little old lady that was doing it all by her own. It was late 60s, probably early 70s.
Yeah, she got featured in a write-up. It was the black woman that was doing it for the first time. She was like a recent grandma or something. And
I found myself following her. Like, where's this lady at? I want to see where she finishes.
Yeah, you think you can finish then?
We'll get back to that.
I'm just I gotta push it a little.
We'll get back to that.
All right, so you figure out the rules. You got 15 people into it. I believe it's bigger now. What? Give me a timeline from start to where you're at, and what chaos. 20. What is that now? 18 years.
Yeah, we just did the 19th annual. Yeah, so 18 years, 19 races. I mean, I tried to be smart. It was just me and my friend Russ, and we kind of like orchestrated this thing. And so I wanted to grow it slow. I didn't want to be irresponsible and have 300 people the second year, because we didn't have the infrastructure of safety boats and volunteers yet to do that. Yeah. So the second year I allowed 75 to enter, thinking I don't even know if 75 kayaks can fit at Call Point. Like, I had never seen more than 1 or 2 kayaks at Call Point, right? Or 15 the first year. So that was scary to me, to allow 75. And then the next year we allowed 150, and the next year we allowed 300. And now, I mean, we've been hovering around 480 boats, sometimes 450, sometimes 480 for the last few years. So that seems to be kind of I feel like 500 boats is sort of
your cap.
I mean, we would definitely try more, but you've been to those ramps like Lexington and Waverly, and they just get slammed. Those first few ramps, the first checkpoint is Waverly, and there's just so many people coming in there. So, but I mean, that seems to be the sweet spot. Like, we're not turning anybody away at 480. In fact, we sell probably 600 to 650 slots, but a bunch of people don't show up.
You gotta expect that,
you know.
Yep.
Because you're selling countrywide. Is there worldwide?
Worldwide. I mean, we've had Japan, Australia, the UK. I mean, you name a country, we've probably had somebody from there. Get a lot of Canadians every year.
So you did it in a raft.
Damn Canadians.
And then you wrote the rules, you did all this, you got the chaos. What, first year, 15 boats. Was it all canoes?
11 boats, 15 people, yeah.
Or 11 boats, 15 people. Was it all canoes and kayaks?
Yes, all pretty pedestrian canoes and kayaks, except one guy, West Hansen, came up from Texas, and we knew he was an experienced racer from the Texas Water Safari, which is another type of race. And he showed up with this boat that, I mean, it was a solo boat, but it was 22 feet long. You know how those boats are. Yeah. Now it's second hat to see those boats. Yeah, but the first time we saw him carrying that boat down the ramp, I thought, is that like a 3-man, 4-man boat? And it was just had one seat. Yeah. And he kind of showed us all, like, he shortened our learning curve pretty quick for the Kansas and Missouri paddling community. Like, oh, this is how you do it. Because he had a ground crew that, you know, now it's pretty commonplace in the 340, but at the time it was like, holy shit, like, it's a NASCAR pit stop when he would stop, and he would rarely stop, but when he would stop, he's throwing out empty jugs, and they're throwing in full jugs, and they quickly kick some trash out, and he's gone. Like, the boat barely stopped. And that became the template for how you be successful. You know, you've got the people who enter and don't finish. You've got the people who enter and manage to finish, and they get a medal. Mm-hmm.
A participation medal.
Well, a finisher's medal, which is a big difference. Right. And then you've got people who are actually competing for the trophies. Oh, yeah. And that's in a pretty elite class of people that are doing this race in 35 hours versus the 85 that we allow.
That's nuts, dude.
Man, they're robots. They're robots. I tell you, and I say that as a robot. Sorry. Going a step further, what's the craziest boat you've seen enter the race for a, let's say, single, and then let's hear up to the dragon boat or the Viking boat or whatever they call them? And
I mean, we've seen some weird, like, you've seen like a Hobie sailboat with the trampoline in the middle. We had 4 guys show up with one of those, no sail, no mast, but they each sat on a corner of the trampoline and paddled, and they finished. Nice. It was painful, I'm sure, and took a long time, but I mean,
I can imagine ramp crews are just like, you're here.
Yeah.
We've heard about you.
some really leaps forward in pedal drive technology have taken place with Matt Walters. And
so I want to interrupt you on that one.
Dear guys.
Let's talk about the 2017 pedal division race. 2017 was the first year I did it, and I did it with my brother. And we were, obviously we knew everything we were going to get into. We'd read every piece of the internet. We're idiots.
Didn't learn anything on the internet.
Night one, we end up saving a guy, and it was like early into the darkness, and the boat's rocking, and you can see like headlamp lighting up not good spots at the bank, and it turns out to be our boy Jason. We'd never met this guy. We pull up to him, we're like, "Are you okay?" And we'd ask like 3 other people this as we're passing him. "Oh, we're fine, we're good." We asked Jason, he's like, "Not at fucking all." And we're like, "Oh, all right, this guy, we should actually talk for a second." He had been in the country for less than 24 hours from being deployed. His friends signed him up as this would be relaxing for us to do. He hadn't paddled a kayak since he was a teenager. And this is night one of the MR340.
Recipe for success right there.
He got sent out with a Gatorade and a sandwich.
Oh, God.
Yeah, get you the first checkpoint.
Right?
We pull up next to him and we're like, "All right, we'll help you out," So we throw him some caffeine powder, Gatorade, and we're like, "All right, we're not going to tie you on, but stick with us. Let's turn on the music. What do you like to listen to?" We find the music. We get to the next checkpoint. Next day we pick up Ben, and Ben is a pedal boat guy, and he is like, he's dying too. He's had knee surgery. He's in a pedal boat, like bitching. We have got the ragtag crew of success ready to go, So we're sitting at this ramp, and we get back in, and right after we're like all putting in, everyone adjust, everyone good, this fucking barrel with ladders and a lawn chair come bike pedaling down the river.
Nice.
And Ben goes, "Oh my God, that's my competition." And so he ended up winning the division that year. Yeah. He won that division that year by like an hour or something in front of the lawn chair ladder combo. If you remember that.
Never know what's going to motivate you, right?
It was the pedal division before I think the Matt Walters tech took place.
The leap was quick after that, I'm assuming. But we've gone from like the Hobie fin things, which you still see them out there.
Or whatever.
Yeah. And they're pretty good boat. I mean, it's stable, but it's got a ceiling, right?
They're great for fishing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have fun completing the race in those, so I don't want to knock those.
No.
But the breakthrough came with these I don't know if you guys can do pictures on this podcast, but it looks like something out of a Dr. Seuss book. I mean, the Kraken, he called it. He made a solo version and a multi-man version. Okay. And I mean, it is, I can't even explain it, but he essentially takes high-end single blade paddles and he mates it to a pedal drive system. And so you see these single blade paddles like blooping along through the water very rapidly. And
that's one of the instances of those pedals.
They cruise.
We'll put this up with there.
Yeah, I mean, you have to see it actually moving.
Fast.
Is that the boat?
Yeah,
that's the boat. And Matt Walters is a goofball and bought a donk ride to transport.
When you sent me that, I just thought it was a frame that transported the boat. I didn't realize that was the full pedal boat on there.
Pedal boat.
So, getting into something like that with evolution of this race in a philosophical sense. Starts out, you thought of kayaks and canoes, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that was the vision, sure.
And now, you don't just get your phone blown up. You've got a limitation of boats, and you get a guy calling you going, "I've got a couple ladders and a chair. I'm entering pedal division." And then you got Matt Walters going, "I'm going to carbon fiber craft a 39-foot behemoth Kraken and fuck up every rule in the race book probably." And then you're going, just go to St. Louis. Just
get there.
Just pedal the boat there, man.
Well, surprisingly, I mean, there has not been a year where even these advanced pedal drive boats have been the first boat to the beach at the finish line. It's always been a more traditional paddle craft, sometimes a solo, sometimes a multi-person. It's been a 5-woman boat has been the first boat. We call the Governor's Cup goes, and it's one of those giant Stanley Cup looking things, but that goes to the first boat, regardless of division, that makes it first to the beach.
So when I looked up your website, I did notice that it doesn't matter if you're single-powered, multi-powered, women, men's division. they're all pretty close to each other when they finish. It's not like there's this huge advantage where you're seeing like the paddle boats come in 5-6 hours before everybody else. I mean, your top finishers are pretty much within a couple hours.
I don't know, man. Duddy's been pretty much superhuman the past few years.
That's I mean, there's only been 2 solo boats that have been the first to the beach, and he was one of them. So yeah, I mean, in a Olympic sprint, 1,600 meter race or something, all those details about your physicality, your training, your style of boat and so on make a difference. But over 340 miles, it's kind of neutralizes a lot of that stuff. And so your mental skills are actually more important. I think your ability to withstand pain, your ability to stay awake, and women are very good at both of those things. In a lot of ways better than men. In fact, one year we had a woman solo beat all the men's solos.
Nice.
Yeah. And Sally O'Donnell is her name, and she's in her 60s, I think. She's a little older than me probably, but just a badass paddler.
It sounds like she's a machine, man.
She is, and she will whip any man.
What's the ratio of mental to physical? In your perspective, like if someone said, Scott, I've attended the safety meeting, I understand what is expected of me to get there. If you had one bit of advice, like at the start, what is it?
Well, I've seen a lot of really buff, trained up, 9-pack ab guys absolutely flame out and not finish.
Takes a lot of calories to move all those big muscles.
Yeah, and then I see guys that, I played middle school football and I've sat on the couch for 30 years and I got this canoe in my grandpa's backyard and and they do great.
No, none taken.
So I've got a chance.
So you're saying.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Well, I mean, and I always tell people too, like I get people who have done ultra distance things, like they've run a marathon or whatever. Like, yes, that is the mindset where your whole body is telling you, don't go another step.
This is
like,
bad.
Stop. Why are you destroying me, your body? And they are able to push past that. And so, I mean, I think the mental aspect is huge because you will be uncomfortable day one.
Brian understands. He's a runner.
Yeah, runner.
He's psycho.
Yeah.
He's an idiot.
Yeah. So, like
compartmentalized pain, man.
Push back through that. And there's a paddler I know real well, Judd Steinbeck, and he says, embrace the discomfort, embrace the pain, be a friend, let that, be friends with it, don't fight
embrace
it.
The suck.
Embrace the
it's
suck.
a battle within. That's one of their things is embrace the suck.
A mantra that he keeps repeating in his brain until he gets the job done. So
that's the trick too, man. It's just repetition, concentration, discipline. You really can't get around that. And if you don't have it, you'll know it pretty quick.
That's about me between the 3rd and 4th trip to the buffet. Got to push through it.
Admirable, man. Really.
Got to push through.
Hey, the 3rd to the 4th trip of the buffet, I will say, is about as comfortable as I'm going to say hour 26 is about where you're just like, it's not close enough to be feeling good.
Hear me out, though. I got a silly question. What checkpoint? You'll answer, and you'll know. I mean, you'll have the experience. What checkpoint do you know, no matter how fucking bad it hurts, we're going to be done soon? Washington?
You want to go first or second?
You go ahead, because there's a lot of variety.
I went, the Washington exit, it's like a highway. Yeah, the Washington boat ramp we got off on, and there is just this lovely set of train tracks. And it's very quiet there sometimes, and it's also very loud there sometimes. I found at Washington to just not sleep there and to walk into town, and there's a bar that sells wings and apple juice. And I got a beer, but wings and I literally just walked into the bar in Washington and got wings and a beer.
Sure.
And so at Washington, I celebrate Washington, wings and a beer. And people, the first time I said that, people were like, You're gonna do what? Yeah, I'm just gonna walk in. I'm gonna
chuck those wings back in the river when you get back in, buddy.
Yeah, it's like I walk in grungy in some flip flops, and the bartender's just like some homeless asshats over here ordering a dirt bag, Well, I laugh because I went in there and I thought there'd be others. Nothing. I mean, it was like a college bar having college night, and I'm over here just like, all right, well, I'll be at the bar on my own, sitting over here, and the bartender was like, so you new to town? I'm like, I'm doing the river race, and she's like, never heard of it. Yeah. Never mind, don't worry about it. I'm just...
So finishing first was definitely not on your mind at that point.
No.
Finishing first?
Finishing
first, oh, fuck. We hadn't hit Jeff City before first was achieved.
Yeah, that's
wow.
Yeah.
I don't think people
crazy.
understand when we say when these guys say Supreme and like the respect so Joe Mann was like the robot my year, if I remember right, who was...
he's a very successful.
So what's the record before we go into that for the finish?
I want to say it's 34 hours and 10 minutes or something like that. I mean, it's roughly 10 miles an hour nonstop.
It's a day and a half, dude. Start on Tuesday and just has midday on Wednesday.
I mean, the back of the race where I post myself, I follow the back of the race roughly, is 200 miles. It has 200 miles to go when the first guys finish, or girls. So that's the span. And once they finish Wednesday, we start Tuesday morning. We will have a finisher Wednesday, probably before dark. Yeah. And then the rest of the race starts creeping up on it. But yeah, it's a big spread.
And what type of boat usually finishes first?
I mean, if it's a solo, it's going to be perhaps an outrigger or some kind of surf ski, like real sleek, skinny boat. But not, again, because it's 340 miles, it can't be the skinniest of skinny boats because your core won't be able to maintain the, action needed over 340 miles. Those boats are for 500-yard races, right? Yeah. So there has to be a balance between stability and speed. So that's the constant game everybody plays. Like, what boat would you use? It depends on your skill level and also your center of gravity. I mean, if you're 6'4", you have a different center of gravity than a guy that's 5'8". So you can choose you can choose a slightly faster boat if you're 5'8", realistically. So there's a lot of that goes into it. If it's a multi-person boat, again, it's going to be super skinny. It might have an outrigger. But to date, it has not been pedal drive. It's been paddles.
Yeah. All right, so I want to pivot for a second. I want to ask a dumb question.
You want to talk about Joe Mann first?
Oh, do we need to talk about?
Because Randy interrupted.
I interrupted to find out because you were talking about the hyped up boats and everything. And
you said Joe Mann was the man.
He was he was in the first boat out the first year I did it, and he helped pull us out. We were quite heavy, and he laughed funny. And he goes, "You guys almost won floating Tupperware." And my brother and I were like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And like we started like realizing you're looking around at the boats and you realize all the boats over here are nicer than what we're in, or there's a few that look like ours, but these are just the other idiots going, don't know if I'm ever going to do that again. But, it's 13 feet long approximately, no rudder. And it's two dumbasses who, I'm going to show you later a picture. I want to get your reaction on film. It's just the first year we did it, ready to go. Just two champ, ready to go, prepared. Yeah.
Gung-ho, dude.
Dumbasses. We had a good time, though. But overall, why are you doing this race?
Well, I mean, the initial thought was I want to get people to get face-to-face with the river because I think they'll fall in love with it like I did. And that came to pass. I mean, really, we built all these great stewards of the Missouri River who have had this experience, and now they will speak up and defend the river. They will vote in such a way as to protect the river. They understand now that their drinking water, their beer brewing water, is coming from this watershed. And so it's important and valuable to protect it. And recreation is important in its own right. To have adventures and to test yourself and to succeed in that test is important for us, I think, as human beings. And so that's the initial impetus for it. And it has become, in that span of 19 years, the biggest fundraiser for Missouri River Relief, which is a nonprofit that does river cleanups, river education, all kinds of cool stuff on the river. And they now put the race on, and I work for them, but it allows them to take fourth graders out. All the fourth graders in the Columbia School District get to have a day on a boat on the river, and all these cool programs for people on the river. So that's why we do it now, is to get people to have that experience. And
it's all from you finding that playground. that nobody was playing on.
Right.
Just huck finning it each corner of the boat.
That's about as organic as it gets, man. It's pretty cool.
I mean, now, any nice weekend, if you are out on the Missouri River, you are going to see people in kayaks, Tupperware or otherwise, enjoying.
It's in my garage right now. We got 3.
And they're out there every weekend, all up and down the river. And it's because we have popped the cork on, like, the secret. Like, this is for you. No, you don't need special permission to go out there. Yes, you need some basic knowledge for safety, but it's yours to enjoy. It belongs to all of us. It does not belong to the barge industry. It does not belong to the power plants. It does not belong to the municipalities. It is our river, and you can access it.
So, real quick interjection on that one, and then I'll shut up for these two for a bit. But KC Current Games, how fucking cool is it to see people out there doing that? Like, I want to go put my boat in and do that now, and I look forward to trying to hit a game next year that way.
Yeah, if the river's low enough, there's a sandbar right across the river from the current stadium, and they can see you out there, and you can see them. And sometimes a soccer ball comes out of the stadium, and I mean, it's a cool synergy with the river. I mean, I love that they built that right on the river. It highlights the river, where Kansas City for so many years just turned their back on the river.
Hey, what a cool stadium, by the way. On a we aren't sponsored by the Current or anything, but what a yeah, we're about 20 years and 500 boats away from that. All right, I'll shut up and I'll let these two talk. I know that I've kind of had my fun here. I got excited and fangirl.
So I whenever we have guests on, I tend to want to I social media deep dive as much as I can. Okay, and I'm not trying to deep dive so much I'm going to make anybody uncomfortable. But I did go look on your Facebook page, and I noticed that you were a teacher. And one thing that I noticed about it was that you had shared some Kurt Vonnegut quotes.
Yeah.
And I am one of the world's connoisseurs of Kurt Vonnegut. I love him very much. I've read all his books multiple times.
Yeah.
I actually was listening to Cat's Cradle today while I was running.
Cool.
While I was out running.
Yeah.
So I have collected just a few quotes from his books that I want to hear from you and him, though, because I mean you're obviously the race organizer, you know the river real well. He's a finisher, so he's seen those places up close. And it's really not about the location as much as it's about the mental game. What's the story in your own brain while it's happening and when you're finished. Okay, so here's the first one. The first one is from dang it. Okay, the first one's from Player Piano, which is his first book. It's about the fear of automation, fear of modernization.
Yeah.
And the quote is, "I want to stand as close to the edge as I can without going over. Out on the edge, you can see all kinds of things you can't see from the center."
You want to know my take first or his?
Go ahead.
Oh man! All right, so this one is it's weird. It plays right into my type 2 fun that I love, which is pushing myself to my own limits, and I'm always baffled by this thing. Like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, You can wiggle and jiggle, you can dance. I'm not good at anything I do. But that said, I can paddle a boat from here to St. Louis in less than 80 hours. I can say that. That quote right there is pushing my body to the absolute limit, and the end part of it, when you can see things at your edge, man, that is the scary time. I don't know anyone except for these fast motherfuckers that are getting done that don't hallucinate.
I don't know how they don't when they don't sleep.
Oh, they do. They do.
It's a crazy time on the water, and you really. To be like solo on the water, solo on the water, I would be fucking terrified. I don't think I could do it solo. And the reason I say it is I think I would get I think I need someone to help balance, and I think that that person, like, I could do it solo with another solo, here, but not solo with, hey, catch up when you're there, or I'll see you later.
Lone wolfing out.
That's not solo.
The silence takes over.
Or that's not like what I'm at, I'm after. So that being said, I mean, there's like a weird, at night too, you start seeing shit.
Yeah.
You see shit.
Probably stuff that's not there and stuff that's probably there.
All right, I'll dox my brother. It's fun. My brother starts screaming in the middle of night too, and is paddling like a motherfucking banshee. And I mean, there's a couple other people around. Like, is he okay? And I'm thinking, like, next step is hit him. Like, I'm gonna hit him with this paddle, because I don't know what to do. I have no idea. He's just screaming bridge, and we're paddling in the middle of the river doing donuts, and I'm just like, what
I don't see any bridges around, man.
am I missing, buddy?
Yep.
You see shit that doesn't exist. It happens. You get to a point of
Been there, done that.
Mind plays tricks on you.
It does.
you balance each other out. And I mean, I said, hey, dude, what was that next song request you had? And it was like it tripped his brain up with something so stupid that it clicked him back in. It clicked him back into the saddle, and he was like, wait. And he like kind of even had to spin around. He was like, what'd you ask me? I'm like, what song were you wanting to hear? Because I realized like he's equivalent of like sleepwalking but tripping.
Yeah.
And that's what that quote gave me. Sorry, that was way too long for that.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's because they're going to make you think, man, because they're not MR340 centric, but they're...
I saw pirates and dead people on the shore.
It's that Vonnegut. It's the Vonnegut
Pirates
gift,
and
is
dead
that he can
people.
say things that will pull meaning out of all
I
kinds
mean,
of
pirates are
situations.
cool.
The good news is, all right, first year I saw pirates and dead people, and it actually turns out I saw people. They were alive, and they clarified, we're not dead, because I kind of made it loud enough that I thought they were dead, and they were
Don't
like,
mind
nope,
the pirate hats, though.
we're good.
So you came across some weird kink fest on the side of the river. They were just camping out, having a good time.
Weird weekend.
All
Kind
right,
of.
sorry, the quote, you?
Well, I think, people will spend 20 grand to go try to climb Everest or something. Like, there's something in us. Like, humanity began in its little place in Africa, and then, we walked away. Like, we splintered off into different groups. Like, it was adventure that pulled us. Like, what is over the next hill? What is over the next, what is in the next valley? Is there a better opportunity for me? And that's how humans spread all over the globe. And so I feel like that programming is in us, like to be adventurous and to take risks because there is a possible reward. And so whether it's starting a business or engaging in a relationship or whatever, like
Starting a kayak race,
starting a canoe race, or participating in a canoe race, pushing beyond your ability, what your perceived abilities are, and knowing that you're going to learn and make mistakes along the way. I think that's when you learn about yourself. That's when you learn about the people you paddle with or your family or whatever. So I feel like that programming is within all of us because we are all humans and it's in our history. So I feel like this gives people that chance to do it in an environment where you are responsible to learn how to do it safely. There's assets and resources we give you to do that, but I get these great emails from people after the race, especially in the early years when it was a little more intimate, but where they say, in long story short, like, this changed my life. I had a mom write me one time and tell me, independent of her son who did the race, but she said, thank you for putting this race on because my son is a completely different person for the better. He was shy, he was timid, introverted, and now that he has accomplished this, he walks with confidence. He has taken risks in his life with his career, with his relationships, and it is because, like, your race was the catalyst for breaking that open for him. And that just, that's a cool thing.
That's good stuff right there.
So it's more than just a participation trophy.
That right there, I think, is like the ultimate reward for you.
Yeah.
There's so many rewards.
There's a lot of rewards, but I guess the when you know that you hit a person to person and you wanted to make people aware of the river, give them something, and that to me, like, that's a hit, that's a win.
That's aiming towards the good.
That's a heartfelt moment.
Yeah,
it absolutely was. I'll never forget it. And and I have a lot of stories like that. There's just similar stories where people just say, and I've watched them. I've watched guys go from the timid Tupperware boat guy to 7-8 years later, he's an elite top 10 finisher. And just to watch that arc of growth for this guy over several years has been really cool too.
Spoiler alert, you are not looking at that guy.
No, not that.
This is Tupperware all day.
Come on, man.
Tupperware Viking. All right, Brian, hit us with the next quote.
I got another one here. Okay, this is an interesting. And I got a couple that are more fun,
Please.
like more festive and fun.
I'll try to be faster.
So this one's kind of in the same vein, but I like that you brought up the young man who had really kind of blossomed under that. Mm-hmm. And this one is from If This Isn't Nice, What Is? It was a late era. It was really more of his like short essays to young people. And it was, we have to continually be jumping off cliffs and developing our wings on the way down, which is I mean, to me, it's you have to take the leap of faith.
Right.
Going out, not knowing what's going to happen is the ultimate out of your comfort zone, and you will grow.
So your first year, Kenzie, when you dove in, what?
Well, no, it's like, so to me, I was thinking about this in context of you specifically, which was that you were very, very proud that the second year you finished 4 hours faster.
Yeah.
So that means the second time you jumped off that cliff, the first time you had developed your wings on the way down a little bit, and you knew what was coming.
We didn't actually develop wings. What we did is we went.
It's not literal.
I know. No, we didn't even have
With
a Red
3
Bull.
eyes.
We didn't even have a Red Bull for the wings. We didn't actually find any of that. What we did is we documented as we fell where we hit each of the crippling tree branches, so that at the bottom of this quote list we could say, "So it goes. Here we are."
There you go. There's this little.
Now, I will say,
Thematically appropriate.
2017, my brother and I talked to Kurt Vonnegut on the fucking river. This is hilarious to
Okay.
me. We said "so it goes" so many times. It was this is our, when you're ready to cop out, dude, tell me. And if it's both of us say it, we'll both do it. And then we both made a pact immediately after, like, we can't say it to each other, bro. Like, we can't pact that. Like, you can't do it. We made it. We were fucked up though, like from the very beginning, because we had like Velcro running down the side of this shit box, and we had all this like beef jerky with Velcro, like sunscreen, bug spray,
Rolling fun wagon, man.
the second bilge pump, because we had the first one over here. We lost both of those in the first 10 minutes. We put into the water, and I felt bad. Our first year, we littered in the river instantly. We put in the water.
Impose a time penalty for that. So.
Add it to my tab.
That's a 10-hour time penalty.
Like, long and skinny of it, the continuous push here on that, or the continuous find your wings, we put in the river. All the shit on the side, we got ran into by someone that was a little out of control and immediately lost half of it.
At what point did that Velcro turn to sandpaper?
Oh god.
We ripped it off after the race, and it wasn't something I would recommend putting anywhere near an open cut.
Yeah, I believe that.
So, but like night one, there's that. Then we scrape. I mean, you guys were honestly practicing some unsafe boating practices with how close you were to our ass when we were at Lexington and Waverly getting in. Because, I mean, we were just right in front of you. And we get to Waverly.
And what happens if he passes you at a checkpoint?
Not good.
Well, what happens?
No mas. No mas race.
The Reaper,
No
man.
moss. The Reaper.
There's rules to it. I'm not going to dive into the fine print, but long story short,
what's a Reaper?
If the Reaper is in front of you, that's the last boat with a motor. Cheater. And
It's not me, it's someone else.
I know. Damn it. But last boat, and if it goes past you, it's just, there's no good situation of it. It means you probably ought to really consider, in a safety forward sense, is this doable? Like, am I going to do this?
Yeah.
That said, in the first, that quote there,
But once I hit a checkpoint, no more. You don't have a choice. You're done.
If it beats you to a checkpoint, you're out. Yeah,
you're out. So, night one, we get to Miami. It's 2:30 in the morning, and of all of the hundreds of pounds of equipment we brought, our sleeping accommodations were tarp. So we lay down underneath it, and that was the year that it was like the breaking cold. And my mom is texting me, and she's like, "I hope you're not sleeping in this." And I'm like, "I'm shivering in this right now. Like, neither Scott or I are sleeping in this shit." Yeah, we're both just like laying under a tarp, and we're both like, "All right, try to get some rest." And 4 minutes later, we were, "There's no rest. Let's just go get in the fucking boat. Like, I'm getting cold, and this is worse if we get cold." We scrapped the decision to sleep in Miami instantly. We went over to the fire. We put our hands over there. We warmed up as best we could. We went, got the boat down in the water, and off we were with zero rest. Everything to plan has gone to shit. Night one, no sleep. All the stuff on the side of the boat, those beef jerky snacks, gone.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I do. This race happens in July for a reason. I mean, not only is it 340 miles of hell, 3 nights of sleeplessness, and then on top of it, you do it in July to add potentially 100-degree days,
lots of sun,
and 90-degree nights right on top of it.
Well, when they did it in December, that everyone was complaining it was chilly.
hit those ice
Ice
patches.
breakers is kind of tough.
Titanic.
To tie up what I was saying, the overall quote is like, we kept hitting everything. Oh, we have a plan. The fuck we do. Like, our new plan is just
Get in
there
a row
before it's done. Figure out, be dynamic, roll with the punches. You know, kind of like you were year 1, year 2, year 3. You're okay. I got it. We're growing. Roll with the punches, but be dynamic. Figure out how to get them in here. Figure out
nimble.
how to do it. At this point, you're just doing it. You're sending it. Send it. That was my mantra. That was our mentality. Was just keep sending it. Find your wings on the way down. Send it.
So with that being said, 340 miles is tough enough. Why did you decide to do it in one of the hottest months of the year?
Well, I mean, so you generally have some stable weather. You have long days and short nights. People are off school. Like, if you're conflicting with the school year, that really hurts, because we've had delays for floods that push it into the school year, and a lot of people that I can't do it. My kids, you know. So I mean, summer's the time to do it, and yes, it's hot, but
so it's not just to make it tougher. There is some outlier reasons why.
I was a high school teacher, and so that's when I had time to.
So
do
you have
it.
time to do it,
right? But I mean, like, there's pluses and minuses to any month you would choose.
So you're just really selfish with your timing. That's
yeah.
what it is. I mean, just trying to make sure we all understand.
Teachers have to work.
Brian, you got one more for us?
Convenient, man. I have one more. Okay, one more. This is from Slaughterhouse 5. And it pertains to the phenomenon of finishing. And this is it struck me because, like I said, I've read so many of these long narratives that people that finish have written, and people that didn't finish have written, about the suffering, the pain, but the ultimate satisfaction at the end. But you know, one common is pain, right? It's the blisters and back and waterlogged, and so. But the quote is from Slaughterhouse 5, and it was, "Everything was beautiful and nothing hurt," which to me is that phenomenon of getting to the top.
I see.
And
That runner's
realizing
high. That
You go first.
So many things come to mind from that quote. I know I've had the experience, and I've had other people express this experience to me during the race, where you're in this misery, you're in this state of misery, but you get so tired and so worn out that you are going from crying because you're in pain to crying because something has struck you as absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. So I've had people tell me, like, I wept at every sunrise from the beauty and just the idea that I am alive. I have a body that's physically capable of doing something like this. I live on this beautiful earth. I have this opportunity to be out here with nature. And so many of us are so distant from nature now. Like, we think about the last time your barefoot touched grass. I mean, like, you know, when we're kids, we live that life. We are in it all the time. You're looking at bugs in the ground, and you're climbing a tree and things like that. And we completely insulate ourselves with HVAC and everything else to where we don't even touch the earth with our skin anymore.
Totally agree.
That was back when phones were mounted on the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When was the last time you heard a dial tone? Right. So yeah, like, those moments happen out there, and they are coupled with terror or despair or, God, my butt hurts or whatever. But you know,
that sounds personal.
Maybe for Kenzie.
Just don't let him sneak up behind you.
Weird place that you put yourself in mentally. I think it's healthy to where your emotions are very on the surface, where we like to squish them down a lot. Yeah. And so I've heard that so many times from so many different people. Like, I don't know why I'm crying, but they're happy tears. Yep. And so, yeah, that's what that quote makes me think of. It's incredible. Then the finish line is a euphoria that I've witnessed. I come in, and there's maybe only 15 boats left after I come in to finish. But I cry watching them finish, because I have witnessed their struggle for 340 miles. I have been at every boat ramp, every checkpoint, watching them almost quit, watching them, think they can't do anymore, and they just decide, I'm going to go to the next ramp, and I'll decide. And then seeing them finish is just this, the euphoria on their faces. Their ground crews are crying. I mean, it's like, it's a whole thing. So I love Slaughterhouse 5, and that's a great quote.
So with that being said, when are you going to do it?
I mean, I'm not getting
next
any
year.
younger.
Every next year.
Every next year?
I work the entire race. Like, I am awake. Well, actually, I'm awake starting the day before, all night at Call Point. I mean, I have my own adventure, is what I'm trying to say. Like,
I don't doubt that. I just want to know when you're gonna.
So I know where you're at. I know where he's at.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I want to interject on this because I want to throw a shout out to you, because there's a Facebook group that is just obviously way too big at this point, in my opinion, for the MR340. That is very public, very go for it, join, talk about it, and it's very resourceful. It's very helpful, but at the same time, there's crazy people everywhere, right? I will say every year seeing the Facebook post of you, where you pass out inevitably in just the most comical spot, knowing, well, I mean, there's always a post of you passed out on a boat ramp or something somewhere, it seems like.
It's always at Herman, yeah.
Yeah, and it's always at Herman, all right, fair.
That's the first time
Lots
I get
of wine
to sleep.
there.
Yeah.
But,
Lots of wine there.
But the real talk is you're talking about a guy who's laying on a concrete boat ramp outside of the Missouri River. Boats are going by him constantly, walking by. People are respectful because they know he puts this fucking race on, and that's the only chance he's got. And by the way, he's not asleep because he wants to be. He's probably
passed out from exhaustion.
Yep. And it's about where we're at. And it's so that everything is beauty to me is to go back and actually pull this back from that stupid elevation thought and go even higher. It's the fact that the paddlers are just one small part. The community behind it is actually the beauty to me, and the whole of it is that at the end of it, nothing hurts. Like, yeah, I'm not saying people don't have some this and that, they get back and better. I'm saying the whole fucking community. I mean, every ground crew out there. The first year we didn't have a ground crew, and we got picked up by Jason's ground crew, who was an old Army buddy who was a cook and helped us out and cooked for us because we saved his buddy in the river, and that's beauty.
Helping each other up.
And it wasn't even that we asked. It was his friend called, or his friend, Jason saw him a text and said, "Hey, we're on our way. We're coming in." And the guy said, "Great, I'm cooking for 3." And because Jason had sent them a text, like, these guys are with me, and it wasn't even a question. It wasn't hesitation. There wasn't anything. The community behind it. And I mean, that's just my experience, but I also seen, which could go on for hours and hours and hours, of the experiences you see out there in the community. That is the beauty of it. The finish line, the starting line, every fucking ramp in between. I mean, there's a whole bunch of like scout troops and stuff and things like that are using this as one of their biggest and only fundraisers for the towns they live in on this river. Mm-hmm. And so when we go, we used to, we were the first checkpoint. My parents always want to say hi, so they're throwing sandwiches at saran wrapped because they went to the wrong fucking ramp, and we're not even going to dive into why they have 2 ramps there. But that's the typical every year is the miscommunication there. And then after that, it's like I'm taking cash because I want to help these places out because these places are helping us out. Yeah, and that community is beautiful.
That's cool. So with that being said, a friend of mine who's very interested in getting into the event next year, and myself, who has no experience, he's very avid. He does whitewater. He does a little bit of everything. Myself, I have no experience whatsoever. So to touch on maybe helping both of us, like, get into this event and everything, my question to you is, what would be the best way to approach that? Like, what boat would you recommend for somebody starting out, from somebody that's brand new and then somebody that's actually an avid?
Okay, can I make this funny for a second? You want the Scott Mansker starter pack?
Yeah.
All right, so
how do I get into it? How do I compete? What's the best way to do this? If you go to the
Halloween superstore that everyone loves to meme the costumes of, what is in your 4 pieces to the paddler essentials for this? I think that's what he wants is.
Well, I mean, I get asked this a lot, so I definitely have my prepackaged answer. But I think, one of the first things you can do, and maybe, I don't know how podcasts work, but maybe you can put a link in the show notes.
Absolutely.
There's a great documentary on our website that Channel 9 did a couple years ago. It is an hour long. with no commercials though, so it's probably 45 minutes long. So it's an easy watch, but it will show you, they follow different levels of paddlers down the river, and it shows you what works, what doesn't. So that's a good place to start. Watch that documentary. I would also encourage you, like Shawnee Mission Park, they just had their last one, but starting in the spring, they do a 5K every Wednesday out there. And take any boat you've got and go try to do this 5K, and you'll start to dial in like stroke rate, and okay, we need a better paddle. You'll see all these other boats out there. You'll be like, oh, I want to talk to him and see what kind of boat that is. Can I paddle that? Can I try that? Sure, take it, try it. So things like that. There's much shorter races. They just had what they call the Halloween race on the Kaw River, an 11-mile race. That's a great way to start on the Kansas River, very forgiving river. Just get out there and do some of the shorter stuff, shorter races on the Missouri in whatever boat you have. And then you don't want to buy too much boat for your skill level, because that will be no fun at all. You can't start out with the Maserati. You got to start out with the 13-foot tandem.
That's the 1994 Geo Metro with William Shatner's Christmas Carol stuck in the tape deck.
It'll get there.
There you go. That's, and then you will slowly matriculate up into faster boats. I mean, that's just generally the path to success. Like, start with the most boat you can handle without tipping over 6 times in an 11-mile race, and then build up to where you have stability and skill. But just know that first year out there, you're not going to get first place. You're not going to be on the podium. I mean, you are trying to finish
out.
And the second year is when you start thinking, like, how do I shave 15 hours off this? How do I finish in 2 days rather than 3 days and 4 days. And
you just said something that triggered me, and I gotta ask this.
Trigger warning.
I joined this and then did it again. It was a weird time. 2017, in person, safety meetings, fun time. You meet people, you talk to people. I met lifelong friends on both races. Second race was pandemic.
Yep.
No mas. It was a safety video. You got to watch it. It didn't take away from the experience of the race by any means. I know that I wanted the safety meeting. I understand. I'm not here to fight that. Not getting into politics. Fuck all that. No. I want to know something, though. That's 2017. First year I ever did it. Safety meeting. I heard so many people. And the safety meeting, I think someone, maybe you or maybe someone else, made a joke about, for all of you that this is your first year, see you next year. And for all of those of you who are returning, see you next year. And it's so fucking true, because your first year you finish, you're like, oh, yes, I'm done. Never gonna shit. When you guys sign up, January 1st? All right, let's look into that again. And there is this, like, second year, what is the philosophy? How did you mentally wreck so many people that you found a way that no matter what, you got crack that keeps them coming back no matter what? Like, you've got the good stuff somehow.
I mean, that's what you already talked about, the community, which is very welcoming, and loving community, which is awesome. I mean, that's another thing we miss as humans, is that feeling of community. I mean, we come from hunter-gatherer groups of like 100 to 150 people where everybody knew everybody, and now we're very insulated from all that. I mean, we look for it in other ways, so it's there waiting for you. And then the other thing is, I mean, it's just it's a beautiful river, which is another part of it, and you're reconnecting with that nature thing. And so, you get out of this cubicle mindset where you're trying to get your reports done or whatever hideous thing we've created as jobs sometimes, and you really get down to what this is the real world. Like, this is what life is supposed to be. This is the work I like, paddling a boat. So, I mean, I think that's part of it too. And you very quickly, I've heard it described a couple ways. I've heard women tell me this is a lot like childbirth. You finish and you say, I'm never doing that again. And then a few weeks go by, a few months go by, and you're like, you know what, that was actually really amazing. And you start thinking and planning ahead in that light. So, I mean, I think too, like, you've embarked on this challenge, you do it the first time, you make hideous mistakes in Velcroing, beef jerky, or whatever your mistakes are. Everybody's got them. And then you look back at the race and you think, man, I did that in 80 hours, but we spent 4 hours at that place. We spent 2 hours at that. I mean, we could have done it in 65 hours or whatever your goal is. And so you can't let that lay there. You're like, we gotta I got all these good ideas. We got to do it again.
Gotta try it.
And I think the statistics are that roughly half the roster are veterans who've done it before, and half the roster are brand new people. And that is such a great mix from a safety perspective, because with 450, 80 boats out there,
we're the first safety.
We're
the first safety measure.
Absolutely. I mean, you helped a guy. You described that.
Absolutely.
You're almost never alone. Certainly not day one.
No, not day one.
And you can't even pee in your Gatorade bottle without somebody right next to you. Like, how's it going?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, from a safety perspective, that's awesome. But it's also like that first night, a lot of the rookies are terrified because they've never been on the river at night, and it is intimidating. But after that first night, I love it because my boat's moving most of the night, and I'll pass these people who didn't know each other at all, and now they're telling each other their high school stories. They're singing together. They don't even know what each other looks like because it's dark. And then in the morning, the sun comes up, and they're like, "Oh, I had no idea that you were that ugly," or whatever. But we
had a 3-hour conversation about how none of us had the urge to poop for like 2 days while actually paddling. It came naturally while off on the bank, but like there was just this magical phenomenon of the Missouri River. You're paddling and poop, but you don't have to.
Right.
You just anyhow.
Poop, bodies, all that good
All right,
stuff.
so anything else before I ask another one? I want to kind of hit on one that I think is big.
No, go ahead, man.
You're a teacher, as Brian creeped on you on social media.
I'm retired now, but yeah, I taught for 28 years or something, yeah.
Admirable, selfless thing to do. Admirable, selfless race that you start. Obviously, you're a millionaire because of how much this race has brought in money-wise, and it's all to you. So
he's a retired teacher, too, remember?
Yeah, and you should see, like, Mark Cuban has been texting us trying to get on. We've been like, dude, Scott Mansker's in line.
He's actually messaging me right now.
Yeah. God damn it. Silence your phone. But for real, like, talk to us about where the money goes, because I know it goes good. I know that this is part of the selflessness, and again, why I fangirl over you, because I think you are a very cool person for this whole thing.
Well, thank you. There's a lot of people that put this race on. It is by no means just me. But,
yes, no argument.
Missouri River Relief, riverrelief.org is their website, and they do just the coolest stuff. I mean, just go browse their website and see some of the programs they have. And so that's where all this money goes. It helps support that. And they've been able to expand their employees and all their infrastructure and buy vehicles and all kinds of cool stuff to expand their programming because of this race. And as you described too, the Boy Scout troops and things that are cooking hot dogs at these boat ramps, I mean, they don't have to go sell popcorn or whatever Boy Scouts do to raise money. They work these ramps for 24 or 48 hours, however long that checkpoint's open, and they make enough money to do all the camp outs they could handle in a year.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
So I mean, like, it's the paddlers.
So if you do the race, bring cash. There's plenty of people that you can help along the way that are doing.
Have you ever thought about getting a Boy Scout merit badge for, like, completion? I mean, that sounds like a fucking hand in hand right there.
I'm sure it would meet the requirements for a Boy Scout canoeing merit badge if they wanted
something.
All right, Scout troops, don't call me, call Scott. No.
Call us.
All right, so that's all very awesome, and goes back. Why keep doing it? It doesn't.
Well, I'm an employee.
It goes to a good cause.
I'm an employee of River
employee,
Relief. Like, this is my job now. Like, I'm retired from teaching. This is my job. I work for River Relief. I put this race on. It's the best job I ever had. So the reason I shifted it over to River Relief is because I'm 56 years old and I can't do this forever. Like, I know that I'm not capable of, continuing it. It's pretty much me and my wife until the last 3 years with a lot of volunteers.
That's why people call you the director still, regardless of what you want to.
Well, there's a new director, Tabby Lane, and she's great.
You're always going to have quotes around with an asterisk like a Barry Bond homer right now.
Yeah.
I'm director emeritus.
Yeah, but it's founder emeritus.
But it's still it's a legacy that you're actually leaving, simply.
And you're getting your dream job out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want to I want this race to outlive me. I want people to be doing this race 50 years from now and having a great experience on a Missouri River that has been protected because people have raised their hand and said, whoa, 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 like this is a resource and we need to protect it and not just turn it into a ditch. And that is gratifying to see that, people speak up and say, this is my river. This is how I want it to be treated.
So I used Vonnegut quotes very intentionally when I did that because, familiar with his work, he is, if nothing else, a humanist.
Yes.
He believes in the beauty of people and the failures of people and the successes of people. And, it's just the phenomenology of these kinds of what he calls type 2 experiences where, and to kind of interject into my own point, and you said something about we're so insulated. It's like phones. There's no grass. We don't know dial tones. There's this power in the experience of going out kind of into the abyss. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to have air conditioning tonight. We're not going to have, our Blu-ray players and our Netflix. And, I agree with you. I think the experience, again, I've never done it, but when I listen to you and you describe it, what I get is a sense of almost of what John from the Battle Within talked about, which is the beauty of nature. You realize how small you are. You realize this is a symbiotic world where we all have to work together. And it's not just people. It's not just the people. Yeah. It's everything. It comes together. And there's so many victories and so much heartbreak. And, if you're open to those experiences, something like the 340, it gives it in spades. Because people just think, oh, it's a boat race. Yeah. I've not experienced it, and I would never claim it, but I have a feeling there's a lot more to it, and that's a gross oversimplification of it.
So, like I said, I've got a friend that wants to do this race, and he gave me a few questions, and you both answered all of them pretty much. But he did have one question left, and me as I used to tournament fish for bass.
Yeah, that checks.
No, yeah.
He's got the look.
And this is one of the questions he had to ask was, describe that peacefulness you find when you're the only one out on the water. Nobody's around.
No pirates. Dead on the shore.
Oh God, yeah. Describe that peacefulness to everybody that's never experienced that before.
You want me to?
Both of you. So I'm going to start with you.
All right, I'll make it easy for you. No. I'm not going to describe my peacefulness to you. Go find your own fucking peacefulness.
I knew he was going to say that.
Or as the kids would say, hey, you're getting older. You can't do it forever.
But I've never done this. To somebody that's never done this before, I get that answer, but what is it to you? Like, what is that?
Because it's peaceful.
Yeah. Well, how would you describe it?
I think there are revelations that happen when you test yourself, and sleep deprivation is sort of a truth serum that works. You become truthful with yourself, and that level of exertion and exhaustion things will be revealed to you about your life, about yourself, about where you fit into the world, and it will change you. And so the peace will come in the oddest moments. I mean, it could be a Boy Scout some little chubby Boy Scout handing you a burnt cheeseburger on day 3 or something. Like, it might just be like, oh, thank you. Like it will sneak up on you, and you will not know when it's coming or how it's going to hit you. But you will have multiple moments like that where you're like, wow, I never realized.
Those epiphanies, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I can't even compare, but just something being on water, especially as the sun's coming up, that smooth glass, everything's reflecting off of it. It gives you a different perspective of life.
It is quite lovely to be attached to what you enjoy and not what you don't care about. It's nice to know what matters and to appreciate what matters.
Yeah. Well, to wrap it up, I mean, got any final thoughts, Kinsey?
I want to know the Scott Mansker costume, but let's take away the obvious. I don't need to know your boat or whatever that. What are the 3 luxury items you're packing? Not your, okay. Let's go through for the people. Tell us what you have to have, and then tell me what 3 things you're going to bring. Those luxuries.
I mean, you have to have a PFD. You have to have some kind of boat.
Paddle. Or
paddles.
knees or legs or whatever. Food, water, those are obvious luxuries.
I mean, luxuries that people look back and say, man, that saved the day. Like some people will say, bring a toothbrush and brush your teeth once a day because it makes you feel human again.
Okay.
Freshen up a little bit.
Yeah, like it's just things that connect you to like, you know.
Okay, let me rephrase. Toothbrush for me is ground crew.
Okay.
Luxuries in the boat. Luxuries. It's Scott paddling this.
A Bluetooth speaker.
Number 1 with me.
A playlist that has. I think there's a website that will tell you for runners and things like that. Something that has so many beats per minute.
Yep.
Like
BPM.
BPM. So pick whatever your paddling rhythm is that you like.
Yep.
Pick songs that match that. I mean, comfort foods like. You're going to get weird cravings, and if you're lucky enough to have a ground crew, you know, if they can help you by getting that weird sandwich or pizza or whatever you're craving from Casey's. Chapstick is a big one that people swear by. I mean, there's, you know, it's everybody's preference, but yeah, I think music's a big hit. Not headphones, because you need to be able to be aware and be able to hear, but a Bluetooth speaker is a big popular. I'll hear a lot of different songs as I go down the river.
So I'll tell you that I couldn't disagree more with you, but at the same time, I appreciate what you're saying. Bluetooth speaker, but I want a playlist that I'm singing along with.
Sure.
Distracted.
Yeah.
I don't want to be thinking about, what am I doing? I'm paddling for, check the time. No, I want to sing my way down the river, and I don't care who's near me.
I agree.
I think I got
people to meddle left and right. I also had a couple people question if we should be listening to certain rap on the river as loud as we were. It didn't matter to me. We were jamming. We were having a good time.
I think I got at least 200 Snapchats, just silence, and the speaker right between his legs. Just
now, next question. Your time. Tell us what do you want the people to know? What do the people need to know? Because something you said, disclaimer, had a beer with Scott beforehand, and one of the things I'd never even thought about, and I'm going to address this one head on. If you sign up for the MR340 thinking it's like a 5K, you have fucked up. Don't show up. And I don't mean it in the rudest of ways. I mean that is a woeful undertaking, and you are more in danger than...
Yeah, that's a trend we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. I really think since that documentary came out, the documentary brought a lot of people to this that they just saw the documentary and like, well, I got to do that. But they had no experience paddling or on the river or anything like that, which is fine. But I think it presented it as like this sanitized experience, like there will be guardrails around you at all times. There will be safety boats around you at all times. No, it is an adventure race. Adventure races are inherently have a level of danger and an expectation that you prepare and do your homework. And that is something that we're trying to stress in the coming years, especially for the 20th annual coming up. Like, this is not a mama's boy float trip. This is not a float trip at all. This is an adventure race, and there are dangers that you will be facing and that you must be prepared for and skilled enough to handle. So no, this is not a 5K or the Chicago Marathon or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I guess from my perspective, what I would tell people if I had any advice on this, and not to be the guy trying to throw my 2 cents out there, but if you want to do the MR340, as Scott said, know your expectations. You're not winning. Just stop. You're not winning. If you're winning, you know you're contending for that. Number 2, have a plan. Talk about it prior. You know, the 6 P's. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Do it. It's a good idea. Number 3, from an average perspective, know your limits. We went into this with 80 hours was our race plan. We're going to finish. That is it. If you can beat that, great. If you are trying so hard and exerting yourself day one, bad ideas.
Yeah.
Like know your limits, know what you can push, know who to paddle next to.
It's always hard.
And I laugh thinking back. So The other thing is, from real perspective, and this is me, paddle moving water.
Yeah.
Do not go out to Lake Jacomo, Lake Longview, and all those lovely lakes that we've got and paddle all the fuck around them and be like, oh, we hit a couple of boat waves. It's just like the ocean. It's not. And it's not like a river either. We went out to do day one, like 6 days before the race, 5 days before the race. We took the Friday off before that Tuesday. And we put in, and we were already off to a bad part because Call Point was shut down. Didn't even know it. It was some maintenance crew out there doing something. And then fast forward, we had to drive to, what's the one there? 291 Bridge.
Labonite.
Thank you. Labonite. So we get out there. It's a fucking outlaw country music fest that we're driving. The remains of that we drive through to park and put the boat on the water. So we've already cheated on day one, and we start paddling because we want to get to Waverly and pull out at Waverly. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Hit Fort Osage. We didn't know dick about the river. We beached a boat. We beached the boat right before Fort Osage. We did not make day one work. We did not complete day one. We had pulled out of the river much before day one we didn't make it. And we never actually did day one.
So you tried running the race 4 days before the race?
We tried running day one to know what we were in for. And we did it because we both looked at each other and said, what have we forgotten? And it was, oh yeah, paddle a fucking river. And sorry to throw colorful here in the River Relief nonprofit. Thank you. Hopefully you understand they're just words. But
sure.
Paddle a river. It's comical. You should paddle day one beforehand. And I say that because if you can paddle day one, you can finish. Day one is how many people drop out of the 100% of dropouts. Day one is what?
I'm sure that at least 80 boats out of 480 or maybe 100 boats will drop out day one.
Yeah.
Like that's the big.
It's the day one is where you had I'm guessing in your rules back in the day, the conceptual thought, you're fresh, you got to prove you can fucking get there, get a little bit, and then keep going.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's the hardest by.
Yeah, and people enter it and they just are absolutely not prepared. I mean, they know a guy that did it. Well, if he can do it, I can do it. I don't have to like learn anything or do anything because my buddy did it. And then they get out there and within 15 miles they know like we are not ready for this. We don't even know how to steer this boat. I mean, those are the people that you don't want them out there that first night. They're not ready for it. So that first cutoff at 8 p.m. at Waverly is stringent. I mean, you have to be moving to make it, but it's certainly doable. I mean, you did it. Right?
I feel like if the Reaper,
you did it.
You didn't have a $5,000 boat like you.
Fat skinny guy did
That's
it.
what I'm talking about. Like you had a 13.
Actually, we paid $5,000 for that Pamlico. We just got ripped off. No,
Are you coming a mile away?
No, I will say I can appreciate that, and I know that the level of this is also there's a real subjectiveness to this. Let's be honest with what you just said. Waverly, strict. You ain't making Waverly, don't go. Yeah. Don't stop here while you're ahead. Know when to fold them. Come back next year.
Right.
Put a little ass behind it next year with the preparation. Come back to it. If you get past Waverly, you're 336 miles down the river. I've watched the Reaper. And it seemed to slow down and make sure that last boat finished. Because 336 miles down the river, 339.5 miles down the river, the Reaper's going to let the last boat finish, I'm assuming. As long as
talking about the finish line? Or?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like at the finish line, you're going to be less strict than Waverly with the checkpoint feature of.
Well, there's definitely a cutoff at the finish line of 9 p.m.
Right.
And I don't think we've eliminated anybody. I think generally Waverly is where people get cut off, and the Reaper doesn't really cut anybody because the whole pacing is set up to where you don't necessarily have to paddle at night. But so most people do. Almost everybody paddles that first night. And so if you paddle the first night, the Reaper's essentially parked, and you now have like a 25-mile lead on the Reaper, and it's just never going to catch you.
I'm more meant in the good sense. I've seen at as the last boat's finishing, the reaper will slow down to make sure he gets there.
If you're an eyesight of the finish line, what you're saying is like, we're going to let you finish and not DQ you that last half mile.
We'll get you your participation trophy.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe put you in front of the boat and push you.
Let's talk about you for a second here.
Behind you.
How much sleep do you get on the race Tuesday to Friday as a not racer?
Gosh.
I mean, you don't even get a participation medal. So what is your sleep level?
I mean, what most people don't realize is we spend the night at Call Point Monday night because we're working all night. So the race really starts for us Monday. We do registration and then we're up all night. Monday night at Call Point, we're walking the park. So all your boats that you've left there are safe and protected. So we start with one night of no sleep, and then we are up all night Tuesday night. We're up all night Wednesday night. We're up all night Thursday night, and then generally at Herman, which I arrive at about midnight Thursday, so I guess Friday morning. And I know there's only like 8 or 10 boats behind me, and I know there's a safety boat with them. That's when I get my sleeping bag and lay down on the ramp and just wait for them to show up. So probably 5 hours in a week.
Yeah.
So
that's easy. No problem.
It was easy when I was in my 30s. It's a lot harder now.
Labor of love.
I won't lie to you. That's actually good news. I got a doctor who said that's the recommended per week, 5 hours.
5 hours.
Right?
Just straight across. He also is a dentist. He's the 1 out of 5 who
One
doesn't
a
recommend
day,
that
maybe.
gum.
Okay. 5 and 1, that's a good one.
So you did bring up safety and everything, and I did have a question. I believe you said you sent out a packet beforehand. So how soon do you need to sign up to enter the race before the race actually happens?
Registration always opens January 1st at 8 a.m. But we're probably taking registrations up until about a month before the race. And then we cut it off maybe 3 weeks. There's emails that we call dispatches that are sent out starting in March. So probably do 5 dispatches of these rather lengthy emails. And then there's a safety video that you're required to watch, and obviously we're there for any questions or whatever. And there's some preseason races that are on the Missouri River that Joe Mann puts on that we encourage you to attend, like a 50-mile race from Kansas City to Lexington. These are all things we encourage you to do, but ultimately it's on you to read the stuff. Like, I can tell by the things people are doing on the water the first day of the race that they didn't pay attention to anything. Like the questions they were asking me, I'm like, you guys read
the first line of the email. That's what you read.
Or they thought I thought my buddy read it and he thought I read it. And so that's stuff we're trying to get away from. But yeah, it's a lot on you to do the research that we provide you. The website MR340.org has tons of resources. Just go to the resources tab and you can spend 2 days reading everything you need to know, and the rest will be review when we send it to you.
There's tons of great videos too. I mean, like the training videos, safety videos, like ideas about how to stay in the current, how to stay in the channel, how to avoid barges. Like,
let's talk one more real thing, because everyone always if we're doing this and we're signing up, there's money involved. What is the money involved? Can you don't worry about the boat, obviously, because boats are different for everyone and everything, but like the night, you've got to have a light kit at night. That's an Amazon find for most people or whatever, but you walk us through like a breakdown of what you would recommend in a budget for, I want to do the MR340. What do I financially need?
So it's $75 to get your name on the roster, but we provide you with a generated fundraiser website that you can send out to your friends and say, hey, I'm raising money for River Relief. You have to raise at least $200.
Did that.
So a lot of companies will match whatever for their employees. So that's pretty easy.
Check your wellness plans, because your companies, if you're in a big corporation, love to match wellness plan stuff. Like they love to reimburse.
And it's all tax deductible donations to a nonprofit. So that's great. And then you got to have a boat, of course, PFD, paddle, navigation lights of a certain quality. We saw some really crappy navigation lights this year, which is going to be another point of emphasis this year. Just has to be a lot of the running lights that you probably use work well. Glow sticks don't work. Things like that.
You need an actual light.
Yeah, you need the red and green and the white light at the back. a good LED flashlight. They used to be like $300 for a good flashlight. And there was like a period of 3 or 4 years where flashlights were crazy expensive, and now they're like $20 is a kick-ass flashlight. You should have that.
LED headlamps, multiple batteries.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you have a ground crew, it's an expensive undertaking. I mean, you're probably getting a hotel room at the finish line. You're spending money on gas. Your ground crew's probably going to get a hotel at some point along the race. I mean, people spend a lot of money to do it, but you can also do it on the cheap pretty easily.
But with the cheap, I think what I would like to throw at you is don't fuck around with your lights. You need to be visible at night. Don't fuck around with your PFD. Do not buy the cheapest thing. And there's a direct thing to kind of throw out here. Know what you're getting into, because you're going to be wearing that for a very long period of time. And I bought the cheaper end of PFDs, and it's not the most comfortable. Now, it's finishable comfortable, but it's not race comfortable.
You know what's interesting? If you get a pure paddling PFD, they can be really expensive.
They can be.
But if you buy like a fly fishing PFD or a fishing PFD, I guess I would say, they're pretty much the same thing, but they're cheaper.
The Coast Guard rating is different on them, I think.
I don't know. I mean, they've got the mesh shoulders. They've got a ton of pockets for fishing.
All about movability in your arms, right?
And
freedom of your arms.
So, like, if you're casting or paddling, it's kind of the same thing. So you can buy a $60 paddling one or a $30 fishing one, and they're essentially the same thing.
So, moral of the story is don't sign up and think you're $50 in and that's going to get you. I mean, $75 fee and then another $50 is going to get you. It's going to cost a little bit to get you to the finish line.
It doesn't have to be a rich man's race.
Quality equipment helps.
The experience is worth every penny. The experience is worth every penny, and I didn't do it on the rich. I did it on the cheap. But I also know that our light works every night. I know that we didn't have any fears of that and stuff like that. And there's again, no going into the race from my perspective, then I want to hear yours on the real, like, just you get 5 senses, if you will. Know your limitations, do your research, have a plan, prepare, have fun.
Fart around. It's another Kurt Vonnegut quote for you.
Yep.
We're here to fart around. You should know that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty concise and well said.
Okay. I mean, I've told hundreds of people, oh, you should do this race. And most of them are like, you said it's like a long flow trip? Tell me about it. Right. And then like 30 seconds later, you're like, you're a fucking idiot. I'm leaving. Like, go away.
Yeah.
That was the longest final thought ever. Brian, final thought?
I think the idea of the race is fascinating. It's a really cool idea, but I something in the last few years I've really kind of eaten up the idea of these ultra endurance type races, where it really is. It's definitely absolutely the majority of it is mental toughness versus physical toughness. Have you ever heard of the Barkley Marathons?
Yes,
that's the one. That's the one I kind of put it in the same.
Yep.
There are people that finish,
right? A
lot of people that don't finish. And all the folks that do finish, every one of them to a T, to a one will say, we all run a long way, but it's the ability to refocus when you're sleep deprived. Yep. It's the ability to retrack when you're lost, like when you're totally lost, and when weather goes weird.
Yes.
So I appreciate you coming on. It's been really interesting to talk about.
You guys as well. I enjoyed it.
So my final thought is, as a football player, rugby, like I've got the competition in me. I know I don't have many years left. You've intrigued me. No, I mean, I don't have any years to do a 340-mile race. Like, physically.
You say it like you were doing it years ago.
No, I've never done it. I'm just saying I know the opportunity isn't. There's not many years left in front of me where I could possibly do it. So you guys have piqued my interest. I'm kind of curious about it now. I almost feel like I need to.
All right, is the proper term Viking or Dragon Boat?
Dragon Boat.
Dragon Boat 2026.
You sucked him in, dude. I knew it would happen.
So Dragon Boat 20. Define that.
It's like 18, 20 people potentially in a boat.
2026, huh?
But here's what I'll tell you.
Why not 2025?
You will pass the floating Tupperware suckers pulling a tuber and a skier, having fun, giggling the whole time, watching them distantly just
Yeah.
So it goes.
So why not 2025?
I got other plans around that time, 2025.
Oh, fair enough. So we're going 2026.
All right.
Week.
Scott, I appreciate you coming out here. Your ability to give us the time. What you do is incredible, in my opinion. Your selflessness to something that is so much bigger than yourself, your realization of that, and the fact that you put together something so fucked up and fun that it doesn't even make sense. It's just in a blender.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So any shout outs, any throw out websites, anything that you have left to say?
MR340.org. Watch that documentary and holler out if you have any questions. Join our Facebook.